All right. Welcome, everybody. We're going to kick this off. Thank you for joining. I see we've got plenty of people joining in the chat. I see people from Dallas, Texas, Florida, Tel Aviv, Germany, Cape Town, Anwar. Way to represent. You might be the furthest south of everybody. Glasgow, Winchester County, New York, Belgium, Berlin. Quite the international crew. Glad to have you. Um, Couple of items. Today's session, this series that we've been doing has all really been about today because we wanted to take people through kind of an end-to-end experience of, all right, let's build stuff with CI/CD. Let's do GitOps. Let's deploy applications. Let's see how Argo fits into this whole equation. And now this is the creme de la creme. This is the session where we talk about environments and promotions. And this is my favorite thing that we've built basically ever at Codefresh. I mean, we've been here for almost 9 years now. And what we're going to be showing off today is my favorite part of the whole platform, and what I think is a total game changer for the way that people deploy their applications. So before we get into it, just a couple of items of housekeeping. First of all, stick around till the end. We are going to be giving away more promo codes for the GitOps certification. So if you haven't done the certification, this is your chance. If you have a friend that hasn't done it, this is your chance to get a code, send it over to them. So be ready to go and claim that code because they go quickly. We're going to be giving away dozens and dozens of them, but we do see that they go very, very quickly. So be ready for it. Second, as we go through this session, of course, it is being recorded. All of the slides and the video recording will be made available after. And if you missed our first two sessions on CI/CD and GitOps and Argo, those recordings are available on YouTube, and they will be available on codefresh.io/events. I think they're not quite up on the Codefresh site yet, but they will be there as well. So keep track of that, and we will send a follow-up email saying, hey, here's all the recordings, so you'll have the links to those things. As we go through, the chat is a great place to react. Hey, thumbs up. Oh, that's a super cool feature. Oh, I'm interested in that. We'll be watching that chat as we go through and responding to it. But if you have a question, a specific question that you want answered, and you want to say, hey, how does this work exactly in this scenario? Use the QA button, because that allows us to track all of those questions, and we can actually put links to documentation or links to a blog post or whatever resources on that question so you can track it very easily. So chat, react, thumbs up, stoked, talking about stuff, sharing what's going on in your environments, and QA to keep track of the QA. So with all that preamble out of the way, let's jump into it. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Dan Garfield. I am the VP of Open Source at Octopus Deploy. I'm a co-founder of Codefresh, and we recently joined Octopus Deploy back in March to basically best team up ever, create the best, most complete continuous delivery platform in the world. So very excited to share that with you. And I'm joined by Edan, who has been with Codefresh almost since the very, very beginning. I mean, Edan's been around for a long time, almost 8-9 years now. And Edan is our principal product manager, and his really helped drive a lot of the amazing design, user experience items, and now environments and promotions, these amazing features. Edan, anything else you want to introduce from yourself?
No, excited to show you all what we've been working on, and this is going to be fun.
Okay, perfect. So a couple of things for those of you that don't remember, why do people choose Codefresh? Obviously, we have a supercharged version of Argo, an enterprise version of Argo. You can do this at scale. We have a scalable control plane, so you can manage thousands of clusters and GitOps instances, whether those are behind the firewall, just in the cloud, if they're on-prem, if they're on edge clusters, whatever it may be. That scalable component. We have a unified experience for both CI and CD, so you can track everything from the first commit, code commit, through to build and deployment and back. And of course, the topic of today, environments and promotions. And this is where you can model your deployments from dev staging to production, from west to east, from different regions. You can do approvals, you can do tests. quality gates, all of that powered by GitOps in a very, very powerful way. And this is the most powerful way to manage promotions in the world today. And we've looked at every other solution that exists out there, and this is by far the strongest one. And we're leading the way. And we're noticing that people are starting to look at the way we're doing things, and they're saying, hey, we should maybe do things more like that. So really, really thrilled to be leading the way on that. Just to recap, we mentioned that the first session was on CI/CD. Of course, that recording is available. The second session was on GitOps and Argo, and this really focused on how to deploy Codefresh GitOps, which is built on Argo CD and Argo rollouts and some other things, how to deploy it, how to manage applications using it, how to get traceability. We talked about basically how we can track artifacts and everything that's going on with them so we can see what Jira issues are currently deployed, those kinds of things. And today, all about environments and promotions. So if you don't remember the model, the kind of the mental model, we have this idea of basically two repos. Now, they could be in a mono repo, but typically two repos. What we recommend is you have a repository for your application code. So this is where you're making app changes. When you're ready, you can cut a release. Most organizations don't cut releases. They just build, and at some point they deploy one of those artifacts. So you have that motion happening independent of what's being deployed. And then you have an automated manifest generation process to go into a runtime code repository. And this is what your GitOps operator actually watches to see what should be deployed. So this model works fantastically well, and we've seen that it's very successful for organizations. Now, the question is, how do you scale that out for many applications? Thousands of applications, tens of thousands of applications. How do you scale it out for many runtimes? Maybe I've got tons of Kubernetes clusters. How do I scale it out to be within the context of a build, test, deploy, a staging environment, a production environment, multiple production environments? How do I do that? And so that's really what today is about. So without any further ado, that gives you hopefully all the context you need to understand what we're going to be going into. So Edan, why don't you introduce us to environments and products?
Thank you, Dan. So you might have seen the previous webinar that we've done, or heard about, or seen a few blog posts that we have. So let me just talk about the first element that we've released that I think is a huge stepping stone, huge step up from what exists already in other solutions. And that's environments and products. Now, we love Argo CD. We built a platform on top of Argo CD. We offer Argo CD as an enterprise solution, but the love for Argo CD really came for deploying infrastructure. Now, moving into application deployment, some things are not really modeled in Argo CD and aren't really considered there and exist in the community version of Argo CD. And that's where we said, hey, we can make this better. We can improve upon the process. We can build more information on top of Argo CD to give you the tools to really manage your application delivery. And the first thing you think about when thinking of deploying applications is I'm deploying to an environment, either dev, staging, pre-prod, production, different regions. And this entity isn't really modeled in Argo CD. You've just got apps and apps and apps and apps, and you might come up with a nice naming convention to differentiate them, but it's kind of non-standardized and just a hack. So we introduced a concept of environments, which I'll show you just in a second in the product, but essentially give you the ability to say, every application that's deployed to this namespace, or deployed to this cluster, or deployed to this namespace and cluster combination, or actually every application that has this label should be considered dev, should be considered pre-prod, production, etc. And you build out this logic around the environments. By the way, they span multiple Argo CDs instances. So if you have an Argo CD, a few Argo CDs for production, and one for dev, or one for different region, or essentially one for each cluster, we don't care. Model them any way you want according to the environments. That works fine. And that gives you the basis for promotion and for understanding and for bringing order through all your applications. And the second part of that is, okay, now I can group my applications according to environments, but how do I know that this app in dev and this app in staging and this app in QA and this app in production are all the same microservice, are all the same service in different versions. And that's where products come in. They let you create a logical grouping of all these applications and say, hey, this is actually the same service, just different instances of this service deployed in different environments. And the combination of the two really release the power of Codefresh and allow you to really start doing very exciting things with deployments, promotion, visibility, etc. So Dan, can I just share my screen and start diving into the
Yeah.
product?
Yeah, you bet. Let me I'll pass it over to you. Do you want to explain what the plan is?
Yeah. I'll
You'll
show
do it. You
that.
got it. Okay, I'll stop sharing. All right, get out your way.
Perfect. So let me share this screen here, and perfect. So once I'll start by showing the environments in a second. But what are we planned? What's planned for today? And it's exciting because we're going to start by creating applications. I'm not going to assume that these applications are created. I'm going to create applications. I'm actually going to create them with an application set, which is a very cool way of doing that. And I'll talk about that for a bit. Then we're going to create a product based on all these applications because, again, we want to unify and connect all these pieces together. We're going to promote this product across multiple environments, managed in this demo, not managed, but they can be managed by different Argo CD instances. We're going to track the release and give you what I call the safe place for the developer, where your developer doesn't need to go into the Argo CD and see all the resources and understand and go, but has exactly the information they need to understand, hey, has my PR reached production or not? And if not, why? And finally, we're going to play around with some global policies to show you how powerful we can build out this promotion and deployment methodology that we have. So please let me know if you have any questions and ask them. Let's get started. So this is our environments dashboard. Let me kind of zoom in a bit. And what do we see here? We see here pretty much what I talked about before. So each of these little cards here is an application, and they're neatly divided into environments: dev, QA, staging, production, etc. We have them all here. And you'll notice that you actually can't really tell you've got the same name appearing in multiple places. So Trio actually is in dev and QA and staging and production. That's our product. That's an entity that we created to kind of associate all of this. You can see they're highlighted nicely. If I dig deeper, I can see this is actually an application called Trio Dev that's deployed in the dev namespace. And this one is Trio App QA, and this one is another one. But for most use cases, you don't need that level of resolution. You can just see the products themselves here. This is a feature that we've actually released a while back, and it's being used today. And so let's dive into the demo. I'm also going to show you how it's easy to define and create an environment. So let's just edit one of these environments here, and I'll show you how they're built. First of all, there's the name. This is a dev. We allow you to pick and choose what kind of environment this is. If it's a non-production or production environment, this is used later on with the policies. So you can build policies based on the kind of the environment. Also add tags for further kind of use. And this is where the heart of it is. So I've got a few rules here set up for this environment, and essentially say all applications that are deployed in cluster in the dev namespace should be included in this environment. And all of them actually in this cluster, in the KCV dev, also should be part of this environment. Another one. And I've also added another type of rule here that says any application with this label should be associated with this environment. This is something very new that we released practically last week. And that's for customers that have just one giant cluster and they're deploying to just random namespaces, and they don't really order their environments based on the cluster or the namespace. You have a different pattern. This is how you would model your environments very, very easily. So let's take a look at what we're actually going to deploy and promote today. So I have this repository here. And this is actually the repository that Laurent showed you that was built with his CI/CD flow. So I'm continuing over with what Laurent showed you in the CI/CD webinar. And I'm going to actually deploy these manifests here. So we have this Trio app. where we have here three folders. This is a nicely monorepo kind of structure for our manifest. There's the chart, deploys 3 different services, the values file, and of course, and a version.yaml file that I'll show you what we are doing with this a bit later. So we've got this structure, and we've got this here for these 3 applications that we want to create. So I mentioned this in the beginning. Instead of creating the applications one by one, which we can do, and as Dan showed you, I can go to our GitOps applications page and create a new application. I'm actually going to do something different. I'm going to create an application set, and that will actually generate all these applications for me. So let's go to this folder here. So this is our Git source. And our Git source is the box, the folder, the area where we store our application manifests. So I can actually click here and go to the Git repo here. I'll actually do, oh, it's opened here as well, so I'll just use that one. And let's create a new file. So I'm going to create a new file, and I have it already right here. I'm not going to go into the, oh, that's not the right place. Okay, so let's call this cf101.yaml. Now, so this is our application set, and I'm not going to go into the details, but essentially an application set is a resource, Argo CD resource that helps you generate other applications. So I'm using this application set with the Git generator, which essentially will create an application for each folder that I defined. So I've got it looking at this repo, this one here, and it's going to look at these folders, and this path is going to create an application for each matching path. So manifest graph aperture dash asterisk. So it's going to ignore the space folder. 2 handy things that we are going to do here with this application set. So one of the first things that I've added here is I've added a label, environment, and the value of the base name, which actually will be the name of the folder. And also an annotation, cf codefresh.io/product and cf101. This is going to be the name of our product, and this is going to be applied to each of these applications. And we've got all the other specs here built in. So let's commit this and our new assets. Perfect. So that's, and one of the neat things about Codefresh is that we understand that you want to do you don't want to use our UI for everything. You want to build things declaratively. You want to use Git. You want to use automation. So I'm showing you how we actually support and embrace having interactions that are done not from our UI, but actually directly from Git. And that's completely fine for us. So we've got our application here. Let me just kind of refresh this to get things moving along.
Now, this should look familiar from the last session that we had where we were looking at applications. Here, we're looking at them in rows instead of cards, which a lot of people are familiar with cards, but rows is an easy way to look at them, quickly together and see their hierarchy.
And let's kind of go in here and see what's going on. So this application set, this Git source is generating a bunch of applications. And if you can see here, we've got our application set, and we actually have 3 new applications. We have CF101 Aperture Dev, CF101 Aperture Prod, and QA. And I can go into each of these applications, and they're already probably in progress, deploying their pods, working. So look how easy that was. So let's go back here. And of course, if I want, I can go back, and we've got these applications set here in the tree, and they're all nested and neatly organized, and I can monitor that progress. So step 1, complete. Next up, let's get the product set up, right? That's what I mentioned in the slideshow. So actually, let's go to products. Oh, CF101. Now, I didn't show you this before because I forgot, but this wasn't here a minute ago. It wasn't prepared ahead of time, but the way it works that the minute I actually, that Codefresh identified an application with the product annotation, it generates a product in our UI. So let's go into this product. And now you can see that we've got all our 3 applications divided into neat little environments, and everything is organized, and we've already got a bunch of information around them. So all the images that we built in the previous webinars, we can see all the metadata attached to them, and we can see the deployments. And so we can see that these applications, each of them actually have canary deployments. So 3 different services deployed with Argo rollouts. I have all the Git information. Dan was very contributing here, and Laurent and Francisco. I've got the information from Jira assigned to this, and they're all the same because they deploy the same image. So everything is set up, and I've got now a product. Amazing. Next up, let's see how I can start building out my promotion flow and defining everything and kind of configuring what I want to do here.
One thing, Dan, before you do that, could you go to products and hit add new product just so people can see what that annotation
of course.
looks like?
So essentially, adding a new product is giving it a name, adding an annotation, and that's it. The
Yeah,
R
now
word.
that annotation is on the application manifest. So that's why the application set that Dan made actually generated that annotation right away. And so he didn't need to go through the UI because it just programmatically was picked up.
Exactly. Now, so actually, I can go see that in the applications themselves. So let's go to the product, and I can actually go here to directly the application page. And let's go to the quick view, and I can see all the labels and metadata. So you can see here, here's my annotation. So this exists on this application. The dev has product, and we've got the label that I talked about. And that's actually what's assigning this application to the dev environment. And you've got a subsequent label on other resources. By the way, we've built in products and environments deeply into the product in every place. So you can also see here that this application is part of these. These are the applications to this app in different environments, and they're tied into this product. So everything is tied in nicely. You can jump between them back and forth. Whatever UI you like, we're built for efficiency. Perfect. So we've got these applications set up. Let's take a look at the settings. Now, you know what? Actually, let's do something else before that. I went back to our environment screen, and I've got the application here, the products in different environments. Let's do a change. So let's start by changing our CF 101 application to a new tag. So let's go back here, and I'm going to go change it, and we can run a pipeline that will do this. But just for speed's sake, I'm going to do it here directly. And what I'm going to do is update the image tag of the bus log. So, and now, what's going to happen here is essentially what you expect. Argo CD is monitoring this repository. It's going to, let's kind of go directly and see that in the UI. It's going to pick up this change. Refresh this. So Argo CD tends to refresh every 30 seconds, so I'm impatient. So it's out of sync, it's suspended, there's a rollout going on in action. It's actually creating a new replica set, spinning up new pods, and moving along with the desired replica. Now it's going to terminate these ones, all the magic that you expect to happen. And what that gives me is that we actually now have a difference between the different environments. So now I'm going to go back here, and let's do a promotion. So we can do a drag and drop promotion between environments. How cool is that? Or not? You can also disable that if you think so. But it is something that we wanted to introduce. Everything here is covered with RBAC controls and audited, and you can tweak who can do what. But for the sake of the demo, I just did a manual UI-based drag and drop promotion. And let's go ahead, and so we can see here the diff. This is what we're changing. And what we're doing is comparing one application to another. And let's see if I'm going to create a pull request. So if you want to do a promotion, you can do a commit, and that will update the target environment automatically. But we also believe that you should be able to have a gated approach with all the Git principles that we know and love. So actually instead of updating the environment directly with the commit, just create a PR. And that's what you see here just appear right now in the UI. And I can see that there is a PR open for the QA environment. And now someone needs to go and approve this PR. And only after this PR is approved, going all the processes that we have, all the checks that we need, then the deployment would happen in this environment. So I'm
Now
gonna...
that flow of picking either a commit or a PR is also enforceable by policy. So we mentioned like production environments can have a different policy, and you can say for a production environment, it always has to be a pull request, right? So you can leave that option available if you want people to be able to drag and drop to create PRs.
Exactly. So what happened when I did the drag and drop, and it's going to update in a second, is we compared the source repository for one environment with the target environment and essentially did a diff and promoted all the changes. Now that's fun and that's useful, but a lot of times that's dangerous because you might have environment-specific configuration that you don't want moved from dev to QA. The database connection is different in dev and QA, and you want more control over what gets promoted. Now, typically what you would do, you would script this out in your pipeline. Do a commit here, ignore this, change this. We want to model this and make this much, much more easier for you. So let's
A
go.
lot of people, Dan, use Argo CD image updater, which can only update an image. And of course, in this case, we're updating an image, that would probably be fine. But oftentimes you don't just have an image, you also have some variables that you're editing, some values that you want to pass. So it's both. So I think with the CI and with image updater, they're very rigid because you can only do the things that you planned on doing. If anybody's tried Cargo before, it's the same way. You have to have a plan for exactly the components you want to update. Here, we can generalize the diff in such a way that we can include or exclude things.
Exactly. Now, let me show you how we do this magic. So we're going to go to the settings, and I'm going to focus on this area here. So this is where we define the product settings and what gets promoted. Now I'm going to fill out a few fields and we're going to get into them. So the first one is the version. Actually, let's go and show you what I mean here. So by default, we show a version for each application here, for each product in each environment. And by default, we get this from the Helm chart, the app version attribute. And if you have, like we have in this example, dependencies and multiple charts that you're deploying, you can actually click into this and see their versions as well. And because we know about this application compared to different environments, what we want to show you is, hey, so what's the version across different environments now? They're all the same right now, but if there were any differences, these would light up and get your attention. And this is very, very powerful because when someone comes to you as a platform engineer, or if you're a developer and trying to understand why doesn't this work in staging when it worked in QA, usually you forgot to update something. So this is a very, very quick way to see, okay, everything's the same or everything's different or where the changes are, and to get you that information. Now, what this works with Helm, but if you're using customized or you're using vanilla Kubernetes resources or anything else, the app version isn't really the right way, the place you store the version. And we wanted to give you the ability to essentially define exactly where you want this version to be. So how do we do that? So let's go back here. You can actually define a file that you want us to monitor and get the version from that. So in this example, I actually have a version .yaml file in my repo, and I'm storing the version in this JSON path. And let's preview. Let's see if I got this correct. So I can choose the application I want to get the version from. So let's get it from the dev. It doesn't really matter. And this flow is just to make sure that what I entered there is correct, and I don't have to jump and run a deployment and test it. And it's very handy for debugging. So I got the value. So the version here is defined 51.5.5. Perfect. That's as expected. So I'll keep this. Now the second part, the magic part, the promotable properties. So as I mentioned, how do you define what you want promoted from one environment to another? In the same way. So let's go, and we obviously want the version to get promoted from one environment to another. So let's go and add that as well here. And let's add also, let's copy over all the images. So values.yaml and $, let's see, is images. image. Now, did I write that correct? Let's test. Yeah. So this gives me a preview of exactly what's going to get promoted. So these are the JSON paths. These are the values. It's going to get the tag. It's going to get the repo. Whatever I need, that's what's going to get promoted. So that's very cool. Yeah. Now let's save this. Commit, not save. Why? Because actually this is a YAML. This is a Codefresh CRD that's called product, and it's stored in Git and synced to your cluster, and everything is GitOps, and everything is audible, and everything is easy to manage. So that's how we roll. So let's commit this. This is actually what we're going to do.
That's perfect timing because Damien was just asking. He's like, I want this to be his code. And it's like, hey, buddy,
Yeah.
good news, it is.
So the UI is here to help you out. That's the Codefresh mantra. Everything you can do outside of the UI, but for the first time, second time, use our UI, use all their validations inside. It's very, very useful. So we've
what another person was asking, and they pointed out, hey, it looks like you're not using multiple Git branches to trigger deployments in like a Git flow model. You're using a folder model. Now we recommend doing a folder model like this, and we have some blog posts on that talk about exactly why we recommend that. However, it's not required because this system, the way that this setup works is it's going to look at the source of where applications are, and those could be on different branches. And so if you're using the Git flow deployment model, then this would look exactly the same. Everything is going to work exactly the same. And it would just show you that they're on different branches, whereas here we're using multiple folders instead.
Exactly. So we've updated this, and what's happening behind the scenes is that we commit this product resource. Let's actually go see where we put it. So let's go to settings, and we have this shared configuration repository, and that's our storage for all our definitions. And we can go to resources and configurations, and we can see that we have products, and we actually updated it 1 minute ago. So here's this product. Here's the CF101. It was deployed here. Here's where we store all our configuration. This is where you put all your declarative. This is shared across multiple runtimes and Argo CDs. So you manage that here. And once
Now,
it's here,
if you were here for the last session, we actually talked a little bit about this config repo because it's kind of central to the way that Codefresh manages all environments, and it makes it so you can kind of do disaster recovery on any environment at any time. So almost all the settings that you see inside of Codefresh are stored at the end of the day here in Git.
Exactly. And what's going on is we commit to Git, it was synced to the cluster, and it's going to get to our platform, and our product is updated. So we can actually go back to our product, and you can see the settings have been updated. And if we do a promotion now, it will use these values. And I'm going to show you this in a bit, but let's level this up. So we have here a bunch of environments. Let's deploy to more than one environment. So I showed you how I'm deploying from dev to QA, but let's go from dev to QA to production. And that's what we do with promotion flows. So this is another entity that we have. It's called promotion flow. And let's create a new one right now. And again, you can, I'll spoiler alert, you can do this from the UI or you can do this directly from Git. So we can skip that question. But we start with the target environment, with the trigger environment. So that's going to be our dev environment. So we've got our dev environment. Now from dev, where do we want to go? So we've got this application deployed to 3 different environments. Dev, QA, we actually didn't put one in staging, so dev and QA. And let's deploy to dev and QA and production in parallel. Sorry, QA and production parallel. So that's going to be done here. And you can see the representation. I'm actually not going to do a sequential deployment. We can do that, but why not do it right now? Okay, dev to QA. Let's do a pull request or a commit. Let's define these as commits. So we have a quicker flow. And for now, we're going to skip the rest of the options, but I'm going to show you that in a bit. Again, this is a very, very nice, easy to understand YAML. It's called promotion flow. You can define here the steps. So we've got one environment QA that depends on dev, and the policy is to do a commit. And then another environment production that depends on dev, and the policy is commit as well. Everything here is validated. So if I'm going to go and say production test, I'm probably going to get a warning that says, hey, test doesn't exist right now. You might want to create it later, but if not, know that you've got here a mistake. And again, our UI is here to help you out. You've got the warning here as well. Anything that we can do to make this process error-proof as possible, we try to do. So let's remove that for now, and let's save this. Again, stored in Git. Let's call this CF101 flow. Perfect. Again, going to be stored in our internal shared configuration repo. But now let's reference our product. Let's have our product reference this. So I'm going to go back to the product, and let's do this without mouse. So you can see here we have CF101. I can actually search for my applications and my products. So we've got that here. Let's go to our product. Now let's go to settings and promotion flows. So we're going to add a new promotion flow, and hopefully it's already synced to the cluster. Yeah, not yet. So let's give it another second. What's going on behind the scenes is, again, we committed this resource to Git. Argo CD takes the 30 seconds or so to understand this new resource, sync it to the cluster, update us. So it typically takes a few seconds, but that's fine. I can go to the application and refresh and trigger it to do faster, but I'll just give it an opportunity for any questions while we're waiting. Let's see, let's just refresh and see if it's already here. Okay, here it is. So CF101 flow. So what am I defining here? Essentially what I'm defining is that I want to trigger this, I want to use this promotion flow for this product. Now, as you can see by how I'm defining this, these promotion flows are reusable. So you can use them from any number of products. So define one flow and use it for everything. That's kind of the Codefresh mantra. When is it triggered? So it's triggered based on a commit message, and the commit message is promote. I decided that right now. We can also use wildcards here, but let's just leave it as that.
And what are some of the other options for triggering conditions?
Exactly. So another option that might be, and let's add this, so is based on a Git revision, which is essentially a tag or a branch. And I can say, hey, whenever I'm updating a hotfix branch, then trigger this as well, or trigger a different promotion flow. So let's remove this, and I can actually go and say, let's add hotfix, and based on a different revision. So you can build this out to trigger one very elaborate flow when everything is working fine. And when you're in crisis mode, jump straight from dev to production and use the hotfix one, depending on any logic that you want. Again, this is part of our spec. So see the promotion flow is defined here. Let's commit this change. And now we're almost ready for the magic to happen. So what do we need to do right now? So we said that whenever, what did we define? Let's kind of look at that again. So we have a trigger environment, which we defined as the dev environment. And we said whenever there's a commit message with promote, then trigger this promotion flow. So let's do that. Let's go here again. So let's go to dev environment. And actually, this is the wrong repo. So we have the dev environment here, and I'm going to update the values file. And let's give it another different tag. So I've got here copied on the side. And of course, this would usually be triggered by your CI or any other tooling or image updater. I'm just, for the sake of the demo, cutting a few points. And our commit message is going to be promote. And I did not misspell that. So let's commit this. Perfect. What's happening behind the scenes? Let's go take a look. So let's go to our application, CF101 dev. Now it's already processing, it's already updating. I wanted to show you that I can actually trigger the refresh with the keyboard, but I'll do that later. Yeah, see, look, no mouse.
Now,
So
by the way, Dan, you navigated here very quickly by using the quick navigate keystroke, which
yeah,
is there's like a hotkey you can run to start this, which I think is Command K on
yeah,
Mac.
Command K. And we've also introduced something very, very cool here. So we are also leveraging Copilot and AI as much as possible. So what is a product? This is actually how I built the presentation. And we've got here, and we've seen this is very, very useful. And it has all the knowledge that we have. The 9 years of experience that I have in Codefresh was fed into this AI, and it can answer all your questions here. Yeah, so use this, ask questions, and we are also constantly monitoring the questions and refining our documentation to add missing pieces here. So yeah, well, let's close this. Our application was updated, and I see we are close to the time. So let's see what happens. So let's click onto the application, and let's go to releases. We haven't talked about releases yet. So releases is where we see new updates in the project. Anytime we have a promotion that we ran, it's going to be seen here. And if you're noticing the spinning thing icon here, that means we actually have a new release that's right now deploying to dev. You can see that it's running the CF Flow 101. We have a manual deployment here that we've done. Oh, it's already done this one. So let's click into this. So this is how we look like. It's very similar to our promotion flow that you saw before, but this is the record of an actual deployment going on, a release running. And we've gone from dev to QA into production. Both of them are now running. Dev is complete because we didn't really have much to do there. So it went relatively fast. And what else can you see here? So you've got all the information about what triggered this. So this git commit by me to this repo and this application called commit triggered this entire flow. But if you remember the previous webinar, we talk about all the information that we get from the CI and how we can give you all the information that you need. So we've got this release notes here. And what I can see here is, hey, these are all the images that are updated in this release. These are the Jira tickets that are updated. Here are the pull requests, and everything has a link inside to it. And I can go and get all the information. So what does this give me? This gives me all the information I need to understand what's going on in this release and what's working and what's not. And as you can see, production already failed. And we've got this marked in big red. And failed in production is fine. It means that there was a problem in the problem configuration. And you can see the error here. And essentially, that means there was an error with the application. Now the developer can go and understand what's going on. And we funnel all the different errors that we have into this place. The sync errors, the Argo CD health errors, events. Our goal in this releases page is to have this your developers hub. They don't need to go anywhere. They need to stay here. And if we're missing something important, we're going to add it because that's what we want to do. And as platform engineers, your job is to create these patterns and processes for your developers. The developer's job is to write their code and make sure it reaches to production. And if there's not, fix that error. So that's why we built this screen here. Now, let's kind of, and by the way, we can also retry this and see if it works again. But I'm not going to do that because I want to do two more small things. So let's go back to our promotion flow. And we just deployed from dev and QA to production without doing anything in the middle. So let's change that. So let's actually change production and move it to depend on QA and remove the dev. So, oops, move to the right place. And now before deploying to production, I actually want to run a smoke test. So I can run tests here and I can run any different processes here. So this is a smoke test. This is an Argo workflow that you can write and test and trigger through our system, through our platform. And this is just an example of a different test that's going to fail 50% of the chance. That's kind of a demo. But with Argo workflows, you have the power to run any container here, any test that you need. It's deployed on the cluster, has access to everything. It's very, very easy to compose. We have a step marketplace called Argo Hub, where you can see and kind of add and consume reusable steps that we've added. And we're also adding support in the future to trigger these validations and pre and post action workflows using Codefresh pipelines, and also GitHub Actions, and probably Jenkins after that. So we, again, bring your own CI, bring your own workflow engine. We have recommendations, but we're fine what you have. So let's go back here. So let's choose the smoke test, and that's going to run before deploying to production. So let's save this.
Now this is probably a good point to check in on a couple of questions that we have, Edan. So
Yeah.
first, Venkat wants to know if this is GA and available to everyone.
So almost. There are a few kind of bugs, and we're working through them. It should be GA by QPrompt. So stay tuned, and we're still adding more features and more capabilities. So, but it's if you're a Codefresh customer, reach out and we can give you beta access. We're looking for feedback, but it's getting there. It's almost there.
And to be clear, we are using this internally right now,
Yeah,
and we do have
100%.
a number of Codefresh users who are currently using this. So it's
Exactly.
not like we're showing you something that is just a demo. This is being used in production right now. But it is available essentially on a per request basis because it's considered beta right now while we're refining all that.
Actually, early access.
Early access, yeah, fair, yeah. Early access is a better way to say it. Ranjith wants to know trigger conditions. Can we configure particular times for rollouts to go out during non-peak hours? And I have a few ways to cut this nut, but I wanted to see what you said first, Edan.
So out of the box, we don't have, but again, you can trigger a pipeline that does a commit or does an update or crawls our API. We have an API to trigger a promotion, so it doesn't have to be based on Git. So there are multiple ways you can do that. You have there's ways.
The ways that I would approach that, Ranjith, would be, first of all, I would use sync windows, which is a setting that I can set up that basically says when an application from Argo CD can be synced. So in that case, the promotion would take place, it would make the commit, and then it would be pending, waiting for the sync window to actually open up and allow the synchronization to happen. So that's the first way I would do it. The second way, if you wanted to dynamically check load, I would use, in this case, we're using rollouts, right? So we actually have analysis templates running on each of these services. And I would actually use a rollout with an analysis template that would, before it even kicks off the promotion, it would actually run an analysis to see what the load is on the system. And if the load is high, it could wait until that load came down. And that would be, this is something to understand with, because we are operating at some high levels of abstraction. If I have, all the components I have in Argo CD are rolled up here, right? So if I have a failed rollout, it's going to fail the deployment. If I have a failed, init container, it's going to fail the deployment and fail the promotion. It's kind of bubble those errors all the way up to this level of abstraction. Akos wanted to know if we're planning to do any sessions on the Argo workflows components, maybe best practices and stuff like that.
Yeah, so not right now. We use Argo workflows internally, but it's not at the stage that we would we're not adding too much on top of Argo workflows or building a specialized tool around Argo workflows. But we enjoy it. We use it for a few use cases, and it works amazing here. And again, this was our first integration, but we're expanding it to other CI tools as well, or workflow engines as well.
And I think then with that, we've also answered, Ranjith had asked if an auto promotion can be enabled within a particular timeline. And I think we've covered that. You can also run a workflow. You can have it run essentially a check and wait. And so that workflow would run for a long time until it's allowed to run forward. So there's several different ways to crack that nut. And then Ranjith had asked about understanding how to deploy the different regions. And I think we've answered that too as well. So keep those questions coming, and go ahead, Dan.
So just a small comment about different regions. If we go back to our environments, you can see that an environment doesn't really mean you can have multiple applications in one environment. So you can deploy and say, hey, all of these applications are actually production. And and associate all these apps in production into one product. Now that's fine for us. And that's how we recommend deploying to multi-regions. And what would happen is when we do a promotion, we would actually promote to all these applications in that environment. So if you have different apps and different edge clusters or different regions, you can consider all of them packaged, create an environment that calls production and has all these regions, and then create a promotion flow that deploys to that environment, and we'll update all the applications in that region. So everything we built here, while the example does show one application per environment, that's not a requirement. It actually can iterate and run over every multiple applications in each environment. So these tests that we run, we will run them on each and every application, on each cluster, and only then we will say, hey, this environment is green, is successful, and we can kind of promote. Now, this is kind
I
of,
think
again,
that's super powerful because, for example, if I have a bunch of retail stores, each with a cluster, and I wanted to deploy to California, and that represents, 300 locations, I deploy to California and it's represented, hey, California, this, and it's showing the product, which is, my app. But underneath that, there's 1,000 copies of that application going out into these different places, and they can each have their diffing and their components updated, and they're all represented in Git. And so where it might have been difficult to manage that kind of scale with GitOps before, it's very, very easy using this flow.
now I want to say something that I mentioned before, but is super important. Dev, QA, production, we don't care what's the Argo CD behind the scenes. Dev can be one, QA can be another one, production can be the same one. There can be actually 3 different Argo CDs in the product in production in different regions. That's completely agnostic to us. You build out your environments in one way and we manage your Argo CDs a different way. We can work with this. And let's see, this promotion, again, failed the smoke test. That fails 50% of the time. And what we can see here, we see the smoke test failed, exit, and you have the logs here directly. So again, this is for your developer. This is where they understand what's going on. And finally, so we deployed to dev, deployed to QA, production failed. We're almost at time, so 2 small things I want to show you with the time that we have left. First of all, the version. This version now is from the version.yaml file. It's no longer for the app version. It's 51.55 if you were paying attention earlier. The second thing is the policies, the promotion policies. So when we define the promotion flow, what we did is essentially define the policies inline. Now, we want to make this reusable and extendable as possible. So we can actually remove this policy here of actually having a smoke test. And we'll save this promotion flow. And while we're doing that, go and create a promotion policy. Now, what is a promotion policy? A promotion policy is essentially a generalized way of saying, hey, enforce these rules. So let's create one, and actually did create one, but let's create another one. So, oh, sorry, wrong button. So CF 101-2, because I already have one. And what are we saying here? We're saying this policy does this. We wanted to enforce an action. We wanted to enforce a PR and not a commit. And we want to enforce a smoke test before any deployment. And this should be done.
That's a post action. So that one's after.
Yeah, that's action. Thank you. So it makes much more sense to do it before the deployment.
But yeah, it depends, right? So pre-action, you might check to see if there's a lot of load on the system, if there are errors on the system.
We've heard some
post,
customers kind of copying their Docker images to a different registry that's specifically for production. So it depends where you put this. So post-action can be the first step before the next environment, or the last step depending on your model. So before deploying to multi-regions, the last step in staging will be a smoke test to make sure that it's validated. And then we can, what does this policy apply to? So it should apply only to environments that are production environments. And we can set the priority to kind of align if we have multiple promotion policies that contradict one another. And what will happen is, again, we're committing this, everything is a CRD. And what we can do, and I'm not going to wait for this to kind of update, but when evaluating a promotion flow, we can actually see we can simulate what the policy is applied to it. So if I go and change this to here, we can see the items here changed. Let's go to membership. Yeah, so membership also has this, and you see the information clearly stating that the post action is called Kim test, and it's because of the promotion policy, membership policy. So this gives a lot of clarity of what to expect, what's going on, and how the policy affect when I build out these promotion flows. And also in the promotion policy dialog, you can also run a test. So I want to deploy CF101 to production. What policies are used here? So I can see the pre-action is going to be a smoke test, and the PR is going to be the action is going to be a PR, and the post-action again a smoke test. So I've got all this information here. This gives me a very, very powerful system to build out 2, 3, 4, 5 policies that govern all of my services, and it's very, very neat and very, very powerful and cool. That's pretty much what we have to show you today. Dan, anything you want to add?
Yeah, so there was a question Damien had about, do we have metrics for the environments like frequency, duration, stability, deployments? And I think on the Dora metrics page, we float those up, grouped not yet by
Grouped by
environment. Oh, we do.
environments.
Oh,
we do have this.
All right.
Yeah, we kind of hit it there, but yeah, you can filter by environment, you can filter by product. It's all here, and we are looking to add more metrics. So how long does it take you to reach from dev to production and so forth? So those will be coming up in the future.
Oh my gosh, I hadn't seen that we had this grouping added yet. So I'm getting some, it's a good thing that I came to this webinar to figure out what's going on too. This is amazing. And Dan, I think what's really powerful about this whole system is just how quickly you can get everything running. So, I mean, if I wanted to, like right now, most people have the same flow, right, for their promotion. And I can create one flow that applies to everything. And then as I have, you know, a unicorn here and there, I can create additional flows to take those on. And the ability, and we showed it pretty quickly, the ability to specify what does and doesn't get promoted between applications is super important and super powerful. We showed essentially opting in changes, but you can also opt out changes. You can say specific sections of the YAML that you want to have be ignored, right? So this spec is super powerful, and that I can manage it programmatically is additionally really powerful. So there's just a lot here that as you start to use it, like I personally look so much at how much time it has saved me, because as I implement this, I'm like, oh, I've implemented stuff like this before, building like a complex CI/CD pipeline, right? But then it was always 10 times harder to do, and making it scale and having the clarity and the visual about what's going on. Whereas before I might just be like, oh yeah, like I think I did all this promotion. I have this really complex pipeline that does it. But here, the clarity about what's going on in each environment, which Jira issue was just deployed, who was working on what, it is really like the dream of having everything in one place. So great work, Dan, and it's super impressive addition to the Codefresh platform that I think everybody, the people that are already using it are finding huge success with it. So
and I will add one last sentence.
Yeah.
This is just the beginning. We're adding more features and progressing based on feedback and new capabilities. We've got blackout windows and release windows coming in probably in the future. So stay tuned. This is only expanding and getting more powerful.
Yeah, for sure. Come if you're going to be at KubeCon, make sure to come to the booth. You're going to get the latest demo, and we're adding stuff as we head in there, and you can ask your questions. We would love for you, talk to our if you're not using Codefresh already, just go to codefresh.io, click schedule demo, and get a meeting set up to go and start using this. You can go and create an account, and you can start using some of these things, but a lot of them are not yet available without talking to somebody at Codefresh, because they are in early access. But if you want to get early access, contact sales, contact your account manager if you're already a Codefresh customer. And then, of course, we did promise GitOps certification codes. The code is Codefresh 101 capital C. You can scan the QR code there. Go to learning.codefresh.io to sign up. go scroll down and select the bundle so that you get 100% off on both level 1 and level 2, the GitOps fundamentals and GitOps at scales. And we do now offer a credly for these. So once you complete the certification, you can add it straight to your LinkedIn. It's tracked with you. It goes everywhere with you. And we have seen an uptick in people looking to hire GitOps certified professionals. This is the #1 certification in the world. In the chat, we were talking a little bit about how to use sync windows and how those work. That's covered in the certification. You'll actually get hands-on experience doing that. And so if you want to time releases and make sure that there are times when applications aren't being changed, you can do that directly. And so we show that in the certification. So with that, I think we've answered the questions. We're at time anyway. Thanks for coming. We'll have the recording for you. If you want to have a follow-up, we'd love to talk to you. And one other thing, we have a couple of things that we've been doing at Codefresh for a long time that we are now starting to make public. One of those is GitOps is not just GitOps support, but Argo support and help. So if you're using just Argo CD today, or Argo rollouts, or Argo workflows, and you need a group of people that have extensive experience implementing this stuff, you want us to have proactive support, help you implement things with like a technical account manager, that is something that we actually have at Codefresh. So feel free to reach out. It'll be on the website soon, but we're doing that. We have security tools. If you want to have, if you have high security requirements, compliance requirements, we can help you out. And of course, we have this amazing platform that we've been showing you here. In the next couple of months, I think we're going to do some webinars on deploying to Edge, and we're going to be using these fantastic tools within the context of Edge deployment. And of course, KubeCon is coming up in November. So in the meantime, we'll see you online. We'll see you on Twitter, on X, on LinkedIn. We'll see you in the Discord for those of you that are part of the GitOps Champions community, which you get an invite to the Discord when you start doing the certification. And if you've already done the certification and you're not in the Discord, go back to the certification and go click on the invite to join the GitOps Champions. There's a great community there where we talk about GitOps, we talk about implementation, we have arguments about metrics providers, which logging providers we like, all that kind of stuff. So it'd be great to have you there. Thanks everybody for joining. Great job, Dan. Great job, Jenny. Shout out to Taylor for taking all the questions in the chat. And we'll see you next time. Thank you so much.